Welcome back to Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Today's floor plan. This guy's got so many championships right now. I don't know where he's putting all the rings. Bringing in two-time champion with the Miami Heat. He's winning championships all over the world. Norris Cole, you remember him as a rookie who broke right in, won a title right away. We're going to get into a lot of that nostalgia with him. I've also got his guy, Sean Rochester, who is a co-host on his podcast. We're going to talk about that as well. We've got Alex Toledo. We've got Greg Sylvander. So we basically do have five on the floor today. I'm running point. Norris probably should be the one running point. But Norris, I want to get to this. How many titles is this now?
6 as a pro.
So, you needed time to think about that.
Yeah, so 2 in Miami, 2 in France, 1 in Tel Aviv, and 1 in Montenegro.
That is so damn cool.
Sure.
I mean, it did take you a second, though. Like, I mean,
I had to think about it. I had to think about it because total, I won 2 state championships in high school and 2 conference championships in college too. So, that's 10. Yeah.
What made this one
come out here like Bill Russell with rings all over your fingers?
Phil Jackson wrote a book, 11 Rings, right? Like that's once you get to 12. Norris, what made this one different?
Well, this was a year of COVID, so having to go through all the hardships to be able to endure, getting tested 2-3 times a week, restricted travel, restricted movement. The rules are different in Europe as they are in the States. So, the whole year, basically up until June, it was quarantine and had curfews and no public places were open, stuff like that. So, it was a tough year, not to mention the basketball challenge of it, of, staying healthy and, going through training camp. And, it was like an 11-month season this year. Went over in August, didn't get home until last week. So it was a long, long season.
Damn.
Yep.
Let me know, just for people who don't know, give me some of the guys that were playing in that league. A couple of names maybe that people in the States would have heard of.
In EuroLeague or in France? In EuroLeague, you got Nikola Mirotic, you got Nick Kalathis, you got Shane Larkin, Mike James, Malcolm Delaney, Alex Abrinas, Derek Williams. Those are guys that I think, they were all in the NBA. They were all drafted at one point. And in France, some of the guys that you might have heard of, people might not have heard of a lot of them, but I know on my team, David Lighty. I think he got drafted by the Spurs. And he went to
State guy?
Yeah, he went to Ohio State. He was my teammate, so he was pretty good. He was pretty good for us. But EuroLeague has a lot of guys that, from the NBA that came overseas.
How different is the style of play?
It's much different in Europe. Yeah, the rules are different in Europe. There's 10-minute quarters instead of 12. There's not as many TV or media timeouts. Only the coach can call a timeout. There's no defensive 3 seconds, so the help side defense can just camp in the lane and just stand there. They don't have to move in and out the key. It's the coaches more so control the game than the players sometimes. There's not normally, how in the NBA, there's about 3 guys that plays like almost a whole entire game and stuff like that. In Europe, it's, more balanced. You might have a whole team with like 12 or 13 players, and just about all of them might play the same amount of minutes, except for like maybe 3 people or 4 people, So depending on the coach, depending on the, the style of play, but it's a much slower pace than the NBA. I mean, you have some teams, but on average, it's a much slower style of play. And so, but the shooting is better in Europe than it is in the NBA. When guys are open, they make it. I mean, you got guys that shoot 50+% for a whole season for 3.
Wow. And
not just 5 attempts either. You're talking about, a lot of attempts. Like this season, I think it might have been like 4 dudes in Europe that shot like 50, 90 or something like that. So they can really spot up shoot. But obviously the NBA, the athletes are much better, much higher quality athletes. Much bigger, faster, stronger. But in Europe, they set hard screens. They're very disciplined to the game plan, and the older players get the seniority. Unlike this day and age in the NBA, it seems like it's transitioning to a younger league. In Europe, the older, more experienced players get they get the seniority and they get the more benefit of the doubt.
Norris, what's up? Greg Sylvander here. Huge fan of your run with the Heat, and I'm gonna just cut to the chase of what Heat fans want to know. I want to go directly back to the Jeremy Lin game. And I don't know how much you've talked about this. I don't know if you've unpacked this on other podcasts. So I'm coming in blind, but this is something that I know a lot of Heat fans are, they have extremely fond memories of what you and Rio did to Jeremy Lin in the AAA after all the hype surrounding Linsanity. And my question around it is, one, like, how did you absorb that entire sequence? And like, how calculated was that entire defensive scheme, and just how aggressive you were with Jeremy Lin? I'd love to hear your thoughts now in retrospect.
Well, one, I mean, that was a phenom that the league had never seen before and probably won't see again. That 2-week span, the way he dominated the league, you couldn't find a Jeremy Lin t-shirt on a rack. Everything was selling out. It was, it was a real phenomenon. But obviously, we all have egos and we all are competitors, and, we were the Heat, we're the Heatles. I mean, he was a, one-man show, but our team was, lights, camera, action. So we just wanted to make sure we didn't care about ending Linsanity. We just wanted to make sure not on our watch. He could have did that against all the other teams. We just wanted to make sure when he came against us, that wasn't going to be the case. And so that's all that was, just being competitive. And we didn't have like a special game plan or anything like that. It was just, this is the scouting report. This is the tendency. This is what we're going to do. Go out, execute like we do any other game plan. But, obviously me and Rio, that was our position, point guard position, and was like, we was going to have to make sure, like, not tonight, not tonight. That was all our thing, the hype and all that is good, but just not tonight against us.
Norris, I was traveling with you guys that week, and I remember being in Cleveland, and you have LeBron and Dwayne at a practice facility in Cleveland, and all the reporters are asking them how they're going to handle Jeremy Lin for the next 5 years in the league. And I just remember them kind of walking out, and they were trying to hold it in. I know, because, you try to be respectful.
They want to be respectful.
They wanted to be respectful, Norris. They really did. Like, they're trying to hold it in. And then on the way, like, they both, like, as soon as they, like, left the gym. And that was, like you're talking about, that was like that 2 or 3 week span. And then they came down. I was sitting courtside for that game. In Miami. I have never seen a player who looked so competent for such a long, for a period of time in the NBA, looked like he could not breathe. Like he couldn't. Yeah. It's like he forgot how to dribble against the two. Were you competitive with, because Rio's competitive about everything. Were you and Rio competitive about who could give him the harder time that night?
Not really. We were just like, when he was out there, he was going to, do what he was going to do. And then when it was my turn, me, I go at everybody like that. So it was just a competitive thing. And plus, it was on national TV, and we're used to playing, our team, we get everybody's best shot. So it's like every game seems like a hype game. But for this game, it was like people was hyping it up even more. And it was like, man, let's show like we are different. Our caliber of team is different. And that's all we wanted to show. It wasn't anything, disrespectful or special, against Jeremy Lin. It was just that we just wanted to, show that there's levels to this and that our team is at a different level. That's all. And obviously me and Rio, like I said, it's at our position. Anytime it comes to your position, and it's not like, no offense, but it's not like he was like, a Hall of Fame point guard. Sometimes because Hall of Fame point guards, they're going to have special nights. Steph Curry, those type of dudes, they have special nights. But, the guy have eight good games and then to come in and try to dominate us, we was like, no. No.
Norris, I love talking about these different types of regular season games from when the Heatles were together back then. And I love that you talk about it being just a different level. You said you're the Heatles. And so to transition from that into this, where do you rank the Heatles among the best teams of the past decade or so? You got them at, like, when you think of you guys, when it was, everything was really hitting, like 2013, the year that you went back to back, you got the 27 game win streak, everything, everything was clearing and everything was great. Do you put that team up against the Warriors at their best? Maybe I know the
put us
Brooklyn
against
Nets haven't won anything.
anybody.
What
Yeah,
exactly? Yeah, how do you feel
yeah,
about ranking them versus anybody?
yeah. I think our team can compete against anybody. Warriors included. Obviously it would be very competitive, but you got to think. Most people, when they think about great teams, they think about the star power. But what makes the teams that are really, really great, other than the star power, you got to have depth and you got to have competence at the depth position. And we were a deep team. When we went to our bench and our second, line, our rotation players to give, the big three a break, when D Wade and Bosh would be out and it's just Bron out there, we still would run it. And then when Bron would take a break and D Wade and CB are out there with the other, rotation, like our rotations were exceptional. And so, I will put us up against anybody because obviously LeBron, D-Wade, CB can play against anybody. Bron at that time, Bron anytime, he's one of the top players to ever play. D-Wade is one of the top at his position to ever play, and obviously CB's a Hall of Famer. So they can compete on their own against anybody, but the UD, Birdman, Batman, Shane Battier, me, Mike Miller, Ray Allen, Rio, like we can compete against any unit, and so. And then you got to include Coach Spo in the staff, the way they made adjustments. And so I believe that we can compete against anybody. I don't think we're second fiddle to anybody.
Norris, it's funny you mentioned that because I always felt that team really took off when Eric found a consistent rotation. Like the 27-game winning streak, he had that thing down to a science. It was basically 9 minutes into the game, either LeBron or Dwayne would come out.
Yep.
And you and Ray and Shane and Bird would come in. And so, and whichever one didn't get the rest for those 3 minutes would get the rest for the 3 minutes of the first to start the second quarter.
Yep.
And so you guys would get that 6-minute run always with one or the other. I just always thought that consistency was really important in terms of what you did. I want to bring Sean in here, and then I got a ton of rapid fire stuff to get to you. Because you become a media guy now. So tell me a little, because I didn't anticipate that. I will say this, of the guys in that locker room, okay? Bosh, I knew Bosh would be a media guy, okay? I mean, right. you knew Bosh. You knew Shane was going to try the media thing at some point because he's Shane. I didn't think Bird would become a media guy. That's the last thing I thought he would do. I thought he would retire in the hills. Yeah.
UD not going to be political correct.
No. Well, no. I want UD to be a media guy desperately. Trust me. Look at what I'm wearing here. Look at that. Okay.
Block 40, baby.
Yeah, that's right. So I knew UD eventually he'll be a media guy in some way, but I didn't necessarily think you would be a media guy because you came in, you were kind of quiet. You didn't really sort of want to ruffle things. Tell Sean Norris, tell people about what you're doing, and then I'm gonna hit you with a bunch of questions from that era.
I'll let Sean go first. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, so thanks for having us on. What we are doing is a weekly podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Our show is called Believe in the Miami Heat. It's BLEAV, obviously then in the Miami Heat. We put out shows usually midweek, Tuesday or Wednesday. Talk about the Heat, talk about the NBA. My role as the host, I kind of get to be the point guard. We keep pushing Norris off the point guard for some reason, but I get to be the point guard and kick it out to Norris and kind of clear out. I go to the corner and just stand there and let him tell stories. And it's great to have a player's perspective. You have a lot of podcasts where people are talking about what's going on in the league, but to have his perspective, his insight, not just going back, but on today's game is great. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's on, all your podcast networks and, or servers. And you can follow me at Philly Heat NBA.
Yeah, just to add on to that, it's a chance to interact with Heat Nation. My experience with the fans down there, when I was there, I was one of the fan favorites, and it's nice to be able to be a quote unquote media guy and be able to stay in contact with them. So it's kind of pretty cool, to be able to, share some of my insights with Sean and with Heat Nation, just to be able to interact with them.
We're going to get into the current game here in a second, but after the break, there are a million things that happened in the Big Three era. I always said I should have written a book. I'm going to try to get Norris to do some rapid fire here when we come back on 5 on the Floor. All right, right back here on 5 on the Floor. We've got 65-time champion Norris Cole sitting with us. He's won championships in every country. We got Alex, we got Greg, we got Sean. I just want to get your feelings about how you experienced some of the moments of the Big Three era. You obviously were not there for year one. You didn't have any part of that thing in Dallas. We don't like to talk about, but you come in. You come in that second year, and obviously a lot of crazy things happened that second year. But this thing was close to being broken up. I mean, down 3-2 in Boston. First, you lose Chris, right? Dexter Pittman had his moment. Didn't go so well at Indiana. Adjustments were made. Things were changed. And then you go into Boston. You're down 3-2. And I can tell you, and in the press room after shoot around, we were all talking about Eric getting fired, Chris getting traded. All sorts of things were going to happen if you guys didn't step up in Game 6 in Boston. How did you experience that day, that night, and everything that LeBron did that night?
Well, one, we never discussed those things in the locker room. Obviously, we were just focused on the next game. It was a little bit more, it was a little more quiet in the locker room. LeBron was a little more introverted that game. Normally, he has this music, loud. He'll talk, he'll smile every now, but that game, it was total focus, very quiet. Everyone was locked in. It was like do or die, which it really was. And, we put forth an effort. Obviously, LeBron put forth a, historic performance, and when he's playing like that, he's one, one of the top 2 players to ever play the game. So, it was fortunate he was on our team and we was able to, support him and support each other and be able to come back and win that series. But there was no panic. I can say, I believe we can compete with any team in any era because of that. We never panicked. We were down a lot of times, the regular season and postseason, and we never panicked. We always was a next possession, next game, next practice type of team. And I think that's why, having that attitude, we were able to come out of a lot of holes that we were down.
I feel like that championship series gets lost because people talk about the Spurs series more and Ray's shot and everything that happened.
Right.
But you beat a team that maybe it wasn't at the time, but had 3 of the best players of this era on the court together. What do you remember from the Oklahoma City series?
I remember dominating. Obviously, KD was KD. I think he won MVP that season. And I think he had his 3rd or 4th scoring title that he had won that season. And James Harden had won 6th Man of the Year. And, Russ was, doing Russ things. So our whole idea was because the format was 2-3-2 back then. Our whole thing was get at least 1, maybe 2. But when we go home, we don't go back. That was our whole thing. When we go to Miami, win all 3 so we don't have to go back. And that was our mindset. And so we let Game 1 slip away. And then after that, we ran the table. And so I remember, I think it was Game 5. It was Game 4 or 5 where they had a big lead on us, though, where they came out on all cylinders. And then, like we just talked about, our second unit cut the lead down to make maybe 10 or 8. And when we did that, that's all Bron and D-Wade needed to give them second life. And then they came in and went on ahead and finished the show for us. And I think Rio had a big game that game as well. But yeah, I remember, having a dominant series. Anytime you beat a team 4 straight games, that's pretty dominant,
Yeah.
So that's what I remember. And that was fun.
I was about to say Game 5 to me, that felt like a party. The whole game was a party. Man. I don't know about for y'all, like down on the court, but I know as a fan that the whole game was a party. I'm interested actually I'm going to tie today's Miami Heat team back to your time with the team. And I'd love to just get your perspective on the difference, kind of in what you did in the Big Three era with that team, with that cast of characters, and the offense, specifically the offense and the pace and just the way that Spo is using the players today, the way that the offenses ran compared to what you guys did, the differences and similarities. I'd just love to hear some of your perspective there.
Well, one thing Spo is I've noticed that he's grown as a coach, which you should grow as a coach, but he's, continue to get better and better. And he always would tell us that, always continue to get better. You can always get better. You can always improve. And he's been a living testimony of that. So his ability to adapt to his team. So this team, as you know, you do a lot of dribble handoffs, a lot of pin down screens for Duncan and for other shooters. Not as much isolation. Only Jimmy isolates, a lot. No one else really isolates. On our team, it was more, we have an action to get the ball to one of those big three to isolate. It was either get the ball to CB at the elbow, we'll run an action, and then, can you hear me? Yep, okay. We'll run an action, and then it'll be for him, he'll have an option to isolate. And then we'll throw it down to D-Wade, we'll do a backside action so they keep them busy so he can isolate. And then the same thing with LeBron. We'll run a pick and roll so he can get a mismatch, and then we'll space the floor so they can have an isolate or they can drive and kick. Now the team is, like I said, a lot of dribble handoff, a lot of misdirection, and that's how they create their offense. And so that's the biggest difference. When you have guys like D-Wade, LeBron, and Ray Allen, and CB, you don't have to be too creative. You just have to be solid.
Get them in their spots.
You just have to be solid with your spacing. That was our biggest thing. Sprint. You notice when we get the ball, we sprint. Whoever they had the ball, sprint to the deep corner. Give those guys lanes and let them make plays. And this team is more so. Spacing is important, but they got to be able to have timing and execution from the dribble handoffs, the pick and pop, those type of things. And we didn't really have to do that. We get the ball to your playmakers, get to spacing, catch it, drive, catch it, shoot, catch it, kick. Don't let the ball stick. That was our whole mantra. Catch it, make a play, catch it, shoot, or swing it, get it back out, and let one of them guys make a play.
Norris, I'm going to let Alex jump in here, but just two things here related to the modern team. A, how good would Bam have been with your group?
Ooh, that would have been nice. He could have either started or came off the bench. Either one, it would have been deadly. One, it would have his rebounding and shot blocking ability, the way we pressured the ball, that would have been the way he can play the passing lanes. He also would have kept some of the heat off of CB. When CB played the 5, sometime, we could have put Bam at the 5 and left CB at the 4, which he's a matchup nightmare for any 4-man. And, Bam, he's a lob threat. So, anytime D-Wade or LeBron break somebody down, if his man help, he can lob it, to the rim. And then back then, the mid-range was still alive, so Bam can pick and pop and hit that mid-range. And so, I would have loved, that would have been great. He translates well with our team.
I've always thought that. And the other one, and then again, I'll let Alex jump in. You've talked about Spoelstra a little bit. It's funny with Heat fans. Heat fans are critical of Eric a lot until somebody claims another coach is better, and then all of a sudden they back him.
Right.
What in your view is Eric Spoelstra's biggest strength as a coach?
For me, his biggest strength is that he doesn't panic. At least not on the surface. He don't show it. He doesn't panic, and he's not afraid of. Spo's not afraid of confrontation. He's not afraid of high competitive leverage moments, and that's what I've learned from being around him as a coach, and then from watching now being away. He's not afraid to make the adjustment that maybe seems to the outside world don't seem right. He's not afraid to try it, and he doesn't panic. His whole idea is, stay with it, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. And that's what he does. So I think his ability to stay calm and not panic, who knows what he does, when he goes in his office, you never know. He might be pulling his hair out, but when he comes out there in front of the team and he's on the sideline, he's solid. He's solid, and he makes sure the emotional aspect of the game doesn't get out of control. And when you can do that, your players feel that.
So Norris, I love when you were talking about kind of the offense during the Big Three era and comparing it to kind of the stuff that's going on now with the last couple of years of this Heat team. And I forgot what it's like to be able to have multiple weapons who could just break down a guy one-on-one without needing a bunch of, pin downs and dribble handoffs, as much as I do love Spo's creativity. And that's what I want to ask you about here, but about the defensive end. What do you see the comparison between the Big Three Heat teams at their best defensively and what the Heat do now on defense? Because we saw some of the blitzing and trapping this year. We didn't see a lot of it last year. We've seen a lot of zone over the past couple of seasons. We've seen sometimes even a kind of like a half court, a press into a zone. He's done a bunch of different things, and I think he's gotten really creative on that side. I've enjoyed watching it. And even like he'll have guys on the corner help up a lot when he does go into the zone. What do you think about the way that he has kind of grown as a coach since your days, like playing with the Heat to now?
Well, he's had to adapt to the NBA. The NBA is a little different now. I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure they're shooting a lot more threes now than they were, during the Big Three era. So you have to be able to keep the three-point shot under control. And the defense, the Heat defense is one of the top in the league. This year it was one of the top in the league. So his ability to adjust to the NBA now, you have to be able to compete against the three-point shot. Now people shoot threes in volume. Before, at least back during the Big Three era, we believed in shooting threes for percentage. We didn't believe in shooting contested threes. We wanted to shoot open threes. And during our era, we did a lot of showing. People don't show too much anymore. People side it, they down it.
And Spo used it last year during the finals against LeBron a whole lot.
Yeah, try to keep the ball on one side. But when we play, Chris Bosh could show. UD could show. So, which will allow me as a ball, guy who could pressure the ball, I could always be aggressive because I knew that show was going to push the offense out further out. And then we had, D Wade back there. If you didn't throw a perfect pass, he was going, tip it or intercept it. And same thing with LeBron. He was going to run through the passing lanes. The same thing with Rio. Rio had quick hands. If you didn't throw a perfect pass, it was going to be a steal. So we were able to play a little bit more aggressive because of our ability to show. But in today's NBA, the way, the Heat defend now, they try to, keep everything to the side, ice everything, play everything towards Bam so Bam and Jimmy could contest everything. And so I don't think either way is wrong. It's just a matter of knowing who your personnel is and knowing the NBA. The NBA is a heavy three-point shooting league now. So you have to be able to, if you don't have a bunch of defenders who can defend one-on-one, like how we were, like, we had guys that can play one-on-one. And so, this team, you have some guys out there, some are elite, but some are just okay, not so strong at one-on-one. So you got to throw some zone in there. You got to throw some different looks in there. And so, Spo knows his guys, their strengths and weaknesses, and he makes a game plan accordingly.
All right, when we come back, we're going to do some rapid fire. I want to get Norris's first thoughts on former teammates. I'm just going to throw some names out there, and the first story that comes to mind. We'll be right back on 5 on the Floor. We'll do 5 thoughts. All right, Ethan Skolnick back on 5 on the Floor. I got Greg, I got Alex, I got Sean, I got Norris Cole. Norris, let's go to it. Your best UD story.
Oh, best UD story. Well, UD got a bunch of stories, so I'm going to say the one I remember the most, it was the Tyler Hansbrough situation. Because, I'm going to keep it on the court with the UD. We got to keep it on the court.
Yes, I understand.
So, Tyler Hansbrough, messed up D Wade, sliced him up. And, you don't just do that, especially UD and D Wade. We all close, but that's UD's guy. And so he got sliced open on the foul. And we was like, we gonna play it cool. UD, D-Wade said, UD, it's okay. We got, this is the playoffs. It's okay. We don't respond. But the very next play, Tyler Harrisborough gets a wide open lane. And guess who's the help side defender? Good old UD.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. And so UD wasn't going to just give him a baby foul. Man, and UD did what UD does. Put him down, sliced him open, and took his 1-game suspension like a man. and said he'll pay his own fine. That's the good part about UD. UD gonna help you out and pay his own fine. So yeah, that's what I remember about UD.
I got one for you, Norris. Pat Riley. Give me a Pat Riley story.
Oh man. Same thing. I gotta give you one that I'm allowed to tell, because in the trenches, you can't say everything that happens in the trenches, but what story? Because Pat is a storyteller. He told a lot of stories.
Or even just like the first time you met him. Like, I'm interested to hear that, because I know like meeting Riles is usually a big thing. Most people talk about that first time they come to the organization.
First time I met him was during the lockout, and I came down for my press conference. And you know what? I remember him saying that, and it wasn't surprising to me, but it was cool that he actually really kind of knew who I was. He was like, during the lockout, we're not concerned. We know Norris is going to continue to work hard because that's who he is, and that's why we drafted him. He's a mature, young man, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, Pat Riley got some good things to say about the young guy. Okay. That was the coolest thing ever, for us to have, because, he believes in summer league for young guys and coming in and practicing during the summer, but we weren't able to do that. And so he believed that I was going to be mature about it, and I was going to continue to work hard, and I was able to prove him right. They put me right in the lineup because, they don't play, Pat don't believe in playing young guys. We all know that.
No.
So for them to trust me my first year to,
it was unprecedented kind of.
Yeah. And I didn't know it at the time until, someone told me, and it was like, the fact that you even like are in the rotation regularly is like something, because they don't believe in playing young guys especially on a super.
Well, Norris, you were the only one during the Big Three era, actually. You were the only young guy that they integrated the whole. I mean, because Rio was already here. He's here from 2008.
Right.
Yeah, that got in the rotation and stayed in the rotation. Everybody else kind of cleared out. There is one Riley thing, though, because it was topical, because we've talked about it recently. How did you experience the whole shut the F up and manage your own team, Danny Ainge thing? Because you guys were in New Orleans at the time.
I didn't, to be honest with you. I didn't pay a lot of attention to that type of stuff, because that's above my pay grade. You know what I mean? I didn't,
smart man.
You
had no.
Now, though.
Yeah, I didn't have no feedback to it. I didn't think nothing of it, and even now, I don't think nothing of it. I just stay in my lane.
Norris, so speaking
Alex
of the
and
Celtics
Tyler.
here, it's a perfect segue, because I wanted to ask you immediate reaction to that dunk that LeBron had over Jason Terry in Boston, and what that was like.
So listen, the dunk was nasty, but at the time, I didn't celebrate it. I mean, I knew it was nasty, but if you see it, I didn't really. Only the bench really celebrated, because we was like locked into the game, and I didn't think that it would be that legendary of a dunk, honestly, because all the alley-oops that I had thrown to LeBron, we'd had some nice, alley-oop connections, and so I'm like, I didn't think that was the most special one, but when you think about storyline at the time, JT was talking a lot of stuff, the Boston-Miami rivalry, and it was the playoffs. I can see why that's the one that everyone remembers, because it wasn't my.
It's the past we remember, Norris. It's the past.
Not for sure, but I'm saying, as a guy who's throwing him, I threw Brian a lot of alley-oops. That's not my favorite one that I remember. So I was like, I mean, I remember it, but it's other ones that I thought was better. But
which is your favorite, though? Which is your favorite?
I don't know if it's just one. It's a couple. It was almost like a half court when I threw it to him, and he caught it backwards against the Blazers. It was the one against the Knicks where I got the alley-oop and threw it backwards. Same thing against the Lakers. Threw it, just got the fast break and just threw it backwards, and he just dunked it. Backdoor out of bounds play against Golden State. Man, he was a bunch. Brian, he put on the show when you throw the alley-oop. So It was a bunch of them, but I didn't know that one would be the legendary one. But now I can see why though, because he punished him. He really buried that guy, man.
He wanted to punish him
For
though.
sure.
Like the next day, like he would usually back off of that kind of stuff when he talked to us, and we're like, "Did you enjoy that?" He's like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because like you said, Terry didn't shut up since the 2011 finals. So, and he was talking a lot that week also. From
You
what
remember
I
he was
remember.
talking a lot.
And I think
he got the tattoo. He got the tattoo before the Mavs won the title, and then they ended up winning. You know, LeBron wanted that one.
Yeah, for sure.
no, he knew it. All right, and we'll let you go. Now I want to get back to your guys' podcast here, but I'll let you go. You got to have a Birdman story.
Birdman had this train horn on his truck, and it would literally, if you wasn't ready, you would literally like use the bathroom on yourself. And he blew that horn. It was so loud and scary, and you could hear it from a mouth. It's a real train horn, like when you go across the train tracks. He had one of those on his truck, and anytime Birdman pull up, you know it's him because he come blowing that horn loud.
It was louder than the Cole train.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This one, I gotta be honest. Man, listen, it was plenty of times where my stomach was in a knot because I wasn't ready, and that man, he would. I was like, man, what is going like Birdman, man? Stop scaring people, man. Now Birdman was a true character.
He was, but you
and
guys,
the Harlem Shake video. He was classic in the Harlem Shake video. How he started the video.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
That's typical Birdman right there.
That video is all time. But you guys were 37-3 when he came in that year. You guys, I mean, it's like you just took off when he came in. All right, admit it. How do you feel about Dwayne Wade owning a piece of the Utah Jazz? Because Heat fans are very upset about this. Is a business opportunity? I mean, it just doesn't feel right?
Business is business. It's strictly financial. Nah, but I mean, obviously, I don't know all the details of, if he tried to, own a piece of the Heat. I don't know. I assume he probably did, but, business is business. He's a businessman, and, business is all about the opportunity and, about the dollar, and there's no loyalty when it comes to that. In this business, it's proven there's no loyalty when it comes to business. You have to take care of your business. Hopefully that is, hopefully you get to do business with the people that you like. But if not, sometimes you have to take your business elsewhere. So, he'll always be part of Heat Nation. It's always going to be Wade County. So Heat Nation shouldn't, I don't know if they feel no type of way towards D Wade about that. I hope they don't. But it's just business, man. And in this day and era, when the ex-player, especially African-American, can, have ownership, that's big time, and it sets an example for, players coming behind them.
I feel like Heat fans will feel differently if Donovan Mitchell's in a Heat uniform in a couple of years, but we'll just keep that on the down low. And Norris, do you miss the league? I mean, winning championships, but do you miss it?
Yeah. I miss playing in the league. Competing, the competitive part. Basketball is always competitive when you play, but the competitive aspect, I believe that I definitely can still compete in the league. Being closer to the family, that's the biggest part. Being so far away from the family. But yeah, I definitely miss the league, and I haven't closed the window on being back in the league. I'm only 32 years old. Anybody that want to race, we can race. I still, believe I can, get out there and lace them up, with anybody. And obviously, I know how to play a role on a winning team. And so, I definitely miss it. But like I said, you have to take the opportunities given, and sometimes it's not personal. So a lot of times it's business.
Sean, talk again about where we can find you guys and get more insights from both of you guys on what's going on in the NBA.
Definitely. So you can find us on the Believe Podcast Network. It's BLEAV. It's the podcast is called Believe in the Miami Heat. Weekly show comes out on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. And you can follow me on Twitter at Philly Heat NBA. I post those once they drop.
Hey, let me tell y'all something about Sean. Sean be repping the Heat all the way up in Philly, y'all. he be doing all type
know.
of camps in AAU, and I'm like, man, it's dangerous out there in them Philly streets. He like, man, I can't rep the
Still
Sixers. He
reps.
said, I'm still repping the Heat. So make sure Heat Nation know that y'all got a real one in Sean.
Well,
It is
it's okay.
recognized
I mean, they're still going through the process of getting to his. They're still going through the process of getting to his camp, and the process always fails. So it's okay. Don't worry about that.
Hey, Norris, when you talk about you
Sean,
still playing in the league, there's a couple point guards on the Heat roster today that get hunted on defense, like in ways that you would never. So we acknowledge that as well.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that,
They
man.
can use the point of attack defense help for sure.
Well, hey, tell Andy and Pat, hey, call my agent.
We'll bring both you and Rio back. We'll see how that goes. Norris, we appreciate it. I can't let you go before this though. Were you aware that you were almost traded to Cleveland during right after the Big Three era, but that when Pat found out that the team you were going to be routed to in a three-way trade was the Cavs, that he killed the trade? Were you aware of that? The nod says it all. Okay. Thank you, sir. Norris Cole. Yeah, I reported that at the time, but it got under the radar here a little bit. All right, Norris, we appreciate it. You follow him on Twitter. We're going to tweet all this stuff out, and hopefully we can have you guys, both of you guys, on again from Philadelphia or wherever the hell Norris is winning a championship from that day. Thanks for following Five on the Floor. Thanks for supporting our sponsors.